discuss those proposals for better childcare for families, I have the Honourable Bronwyn Bishop with me today, as well as Chiou Anderson, the National and Queensland President of the National Council of Women, an accomplished businesswoman in her own right. Chiou, what are your members telling you about their experience of both working and using childcare?
I think childcare no longer is an issue between, as you said, an 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. situation. More and more women are probably concerned about before and after school care, because that's another segment that we are not looking at. Access to childcare in rural areas is a massive issue. If we think that we cannot get childcare spots in Brisbane, think about Billawila, think about Emerald. Think about Mariba. We are not even touching the lack of access to childcare in all of Australia.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Bronwyn, your 2006 report put forward some really good suggestions about making the range of types of care available much broader. Can you tell us about those?
Yes, I can. Look, the essence of the report in this area was that to balance work and family, you needed to give choices for childcare, and simply putting children into institutions, which are what childcare centres are, is not the answer. There needs to be choice. There needs to be, as well as au pair programs, there needs to be in-home care. Just as we have in-home care for aged care for people who need some help in order to not go into an institution as an aged care home, we need to have opportunities for people to have care in their own home. And so it comes right down to that question of tax deductibility for childcare expenses. And we are in the situation where the tax office refused to say that childcare expenses could be a tax deduction in 1972 because it didn't meet the necessary criterion of necessary for the production of accessible income. Now, that case in 1972 had some very offensive words in it when we look at it from 2023. And that is, the judge who was sitting alone in the High Court hearing that case agreed that the young single parent who was earning a living as a cost law clerk could not earn a suitable income unless she had childcare. But then went on to say, because the tax office says that those costs will not be tax deductible if it's of a private and domestic nature, it's not a deduction. Now, you can deduct your union fees, you can deduct computers, software, you can deduct seminars, you can deduct self-education programs. There's a whole list of things, but not childcare, which is vital for women. And those words...
I know which one women would choose.
Yes. It's simply not acceptable to say you're a woman, it's your problem, which is basically what that court case says. It has not been challenged since 1972. The government, every government has had the power to legislate to say their childcare services fees will be tax deductible in the hands of the parent who is earning accessible income. And in my report, we set out the sort of legislation that it should be, which means it would cover people who, for instance, got a level 2 certificate in caring, who could then be a tax deduction for in-home care. It could then apply to a whole range of things where, look at a parent who's got 3 kids, one in preschool, one in school, one in a different part of the school. It's usually the mother who has to run around or organise the picking up of those children. We've got people who work in nighttime jobs for whom institutional care doesn't work. And I did take the care to have Access Economics and Econtech take a look at the viability of it, and they came up and said, yes, it's quite affordable for the country to do. So it is no longer
Let's bring
acceptable.
Chiou in on this for a moment. Sorry, Bronwyn.
Yes.
Sorry, Bronwyn. I want to bring Chiou in on this. Chiou, how would tax deductibility of childcare affect women across Australia? You would have seen a different perspective in your role?
Probably, I think the bigger issue is that if childcare is only made available as a tax deduction to women, then we're going back to the whole gender conversation. Is childcare a women's responsibility? Mm-hmm. So I think we probably need to go back to the language around care is a parenting responsibility, not a mother's responsibility. So tying the nexus between childcare as a legit expense in earning your income is a test that the tax office has to, first of all, support. To the end, I think if we have childcare as a free service, where we're moving towards universal early childhood and care, I think that's where we need to be. It's not so much about the tax deductibility. It's about providing good quality care for all Australian children from the time they need care. And then we remove the whole complexity around whether it should be a tax deduction, whether we're bringing a nanny into the system. And I do agree with Bronwyn. I think we need to look at the home care model. I'm in the home care sector. I think we need to look at the home care model in terms of mobilizing and addressing the different needs of all parents. It's about giving every single parent the chance to be a great parent and giving every single child the chance to have a great childhood. I think that's where we need to be.
They're good principles, although I'm not sure that there's any such thing as free. Bronwyn, should we also be encouraging more and bigger families for those people who want that in their lives by supporting a system of family taxation for those people with children who choose to have a parent stay at home or work part-time, so that more people have scope to care for their own children if that's what they want for them?
Well, the report that we looked at the reality of people who are needing to work to earn a wage or a salary that enables them to look after their household. Now, it doesn't just apply to women, it applies to men as well, but it is women who are largely affected most. That's why we concentrated on those people who were in the workforce. Now, the report did say that people could choose whether they wanted to stay with the institutional arrangement, but the problem with that method of childcare is that the moment the government ups the subsidy, up go the fees. It is not a solution to the problems that women face. So it needed to have a fresh look. But my point is this, that decision of the High Court in 1972 is what has determined non-tax deductibility for childcare expenses up to this day. Whereas the Parliament has the power to say, well, if it's producing assessable income and the court found that it was necessary, but then found that it was a private and domestic arrangement, that is the part that is so offensive today, because it is saying it's your problem, get over it. And that is not acceptable. If you can deduct a whole range of other things that we know you can, then we are bringing fairness into the system. And the other thing is this, that with professional women, they will establish their careers first, so they're putting off having children, which means they're likely to have fewer children and likely the possibility of not having any. It means that unless we see, and again the Access Economic report in this report says that what we really need to do is see a lot of women who are just in part-time jobs, convert those to full-time jobs, which meet those 3 Ps, participation, productivity and population, that if we see that they do move from part-time to full-time jobs, that will increase the growth in the economy. Women are an essential part of seeing Australia grow. And only a foolish country does not turn to one half of its population and say, we want to make it easier for you to participate and still have a good life and have balance in that life. So that's why I think the question...
That's pretty fair, Bronwyn. I just want to get Chiou in one more time. We've got to go to a break shortly. So, Chiou, is it right to link access to childcare assistance to economic productivity. I mean, that's what tax deductibility does in effect. Should we be able to do it on that basis as an election other than a subsidy?
I do agree. I think if we can link those two components together, the conversation that we have in Australia right now about the lack of productivity is concerning. Unleashing the economic powerhouse that women are, I think is a necessary move to lift our productivity. Then linking back to whether it's a deductible expense in terms of providing care to enable women to work, I think we need to look at the whole broader of why we're not harvesting women properly, educated, professional, ready women, and what do we need to do to help these women get on and help our economy. I think we have a lot of structural reforms that we need to do, and I know that the government is looking at trying to make those reforms. So this is a really, really good time for everybody to think about what that could be. Let's reimagine what that could be. If women are encouraged and empowered and working in an environment that allows them to go back to work while at the same time not suffering the guilt of being a working parent, I think it would be a fabulous win for Australia.
Chiou Anderson and Bronwyn Bishop, thank you both for your time and your insight.